This only happens on a rare occasion that I predict correctly. But for some reason, I knew that this track would debut today. I don't know why. I heard no rumors. I have nothing in the way of scoopers out there that told me Icon for Hire is getting ready to debut a new track for their upcoming album, The Reckoning. But the minute I got the notification on my phone, because I pre-ordered the album on my iTunes account, and iTunes is telling me, oh, a new track's available from The Reckoning, I'm like, I knew it. I don't know why. I just knew they were going to debut a track today. Maybe it's just this overall feeling today in comparing Icon for Hire to other bands that are putting out some new work, because Demon Hunters debuted a new song, Demi Lovato debuted a new song, and now we have Icon for Hire debuting a new song. It's just a big day for new song videos. I don't know why. But either way, I mean, the album's still a ways out, so I thought we may be taking a little bit longer in regard to releasing every single, because we've had 2 thus far, and they've been, a little more spread out, but we're quickly inching our way to September. It's just still, we got a bit of a ways to go. But either way, I'm excited for The Reckoning. It's been a great album so far. I've covered both of the previous tracks on this channel. Love listening to them. Of course, I love covering rock music, but Icon for Hire, as I've stated previously on many of my different videos, and for those of you who are regular viewers on this channel, you know this, I haven't done much in the way of music coverage. It's a venture in the entertainment world that I've recently waded into. It's something that I've always wanted to bring into this channel much more so than I had previously, because for those of you who are familiar, I tend to cover many different types of artistic expression, but notably from the visual space. So cinema, television, video games, stuff like that. But music is something that I've always wanted to bring up more and explore deeper. Music for me is such a creative a function of the artistic world. It's a first love in many ways, much more so than other types of entertainment forms. As much as I love cinema and other expressions like that, music for me has been something that's just been so vital and integral to my life. It really just has helped me grow and mature and function over the years. And it's been closer to me, even more so than my personal relationships in life. I certainly know, what it's done for me in the past from whatever artist it might be. And Icon for Hire, I've been a fan of them, as I've stated, since their scripted days, since, Make a Move. They're, I think, still our most viewed video at this point, in terms of their music, debuted on the iTunes charts at number 2. I mean, that was a very significant debut, and ever since then, 4 albums later, 5 now going on The Reckoning, they've maintained that. I've loved this band, not just from, of course, being incredible artistic talents, especially within the rock scene, but they're the band that I deeply respect in regards to their lyrical writing and their messages. Icon for Hire is not afraid to go places in regard to their boldness and themes and explorations within their tracks that other artists might be hesitant to. For example, as I've stated in regard to previous examples, Now You Know, dealing with objectification of women in the music industry, Under the Knife, self-destructive behaviors like cutting, suicide, burning within the emo community. These are themes you don't oftentimes hear talked about in music, but they're extremely relevant to many people, out there, that for people who perhaps are in that, as we all are, we're all living in a broken world. I come from a Christian background, so that's kind of how I recognize it. But even just speaking outside of that, I'm very well aware that people from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, to whatever context I have experienced brokenness and the hurt that oftentimes an imperfect world can bring, and people are looking for that resonance with music. Oftentimes there's a spirit of fellowship that I think everyone wants, and music can give them that. I think Icon for Hire has expertly given many people that accompaniment. The Reckoning is continuing the trend that's been, a staple of theirs for the last couple of albums. Ready for Combat, set the bar pretty high in regards to the new album. Dismantled is a beautiful track. I cannot tell you just how much that one is. Even more so from a first impression. I loved it the first time I listened to it, but that song is it's quickly becoming number 1 on my playlist. I play it all the time. It's just such a beautiful and very empowering song. And beautifully written, too. Really solid. I think it's been one of my favorites from them in terms of their rock music, which, this album is really harkening back to their roots. I remember reading a comment in one of the previous videos I did for Icon for Hire saying that they were going to go more into rock here. That's how they started. And they play around with different styles, rap, hip-hop. They've done a lot of ballad stuff, too. Some, pop stylized music. But I love rock. I'm a metalhead. That's what it sticks with me in terms of favorite genre, even though my tastes are quite broad. But I think that Dismantled was just it really set I think, a good level in charts in regards to the expected energy that I have for this album. And it really did harken back to the roots that I grew to love Icon for Hire with, in their earlier days. Let's go ahead, though, and give Breakdown a listen. So this new track, it didn't get a music video debut like some of their previous tracks or their singles. I think all their singles on the last album, Amorphous, got a music video debut, so that's a bit different. But, this one, maybe the music video will come later, who knows. But in this case, we just have a song to listen to. Of course, I'll pull up the lyrics for your convenience, but we can listen to this track together. A new Icon for Hire song. I love listening to them. I love covering Icon for Hire on this channel, as well, just covering music broadly. Without further ado, here we go. I'm going to cue it up, and we can listen to it together. Breakdown. I'm anticipating a high energy, and this is track number 2. So this is coming, I think, right after the intro track. Okay, set the beat. Electronic vibe too. High energy. Oh, good. Good key pick too.
I'm always one step away from the railing. I try to hold myself back.
That's good.
I'm always one step away from the feeling. I could snap just like that. Self-destruction, don't you love it?
Who's some spoken word?
Rise above it, get so high off the load until I let go. I'm always up for a breakdown. The pressure's building now. That beat in my brain is keeping me safe. Make it loud. I'm always up. I'm always hiding the way that
That's
I
good.
carry.
Like a shortened chorus in terms of the sound.
Trying to hold my head up. Wanna drive, so don't make you wanna go.
This is a great example of them mixing around and playing with different styles in the same track. Even if there's that rock basis, there's just different creative elements brought in too to make it seem very unique and fresh. That's a good snare there too. Oh, that's good. Love the vocals here. Oh, good. Elevating here the energy. That's a good background yell, too. Good lead-in, by the way, to Ready for Combat, which has a more aggressive vocal style, too. That's good. Smooth. Always thought more. I'm like, as soon as the second's there. Good breakdown going at the end of the track, too. Solid conclusion. And it just feeds right into Ready for Combat, as I said. My playlist has now queued that one up. A good song, but we're talking about Breakdown right now. That's beautiful. The album, let me see about the... I'm questioning about the intro track, if I remember this right. Because the first album had that, and Amorphous has a couple interludes. Or not Amorphous, well, Amorphous did. But this album, at least what I saw in the track listing, had a couple tracks singled out here that were shorter in duration. And I think this one is coming after, yes, The Ascent. That will be the interlude track, and that's going to feed right into Breakdown. That's solid, though. That's a really good track. And as I've stated previously, with Icon for Hire, they're not afraid to mix around creatively with different styles. So that's got not only, the rock basis, which was beautifully mastered there, and those riffs were excellent. Good job, Sean. But the electronic vibe, as I've also stated previously in many, I primarily stated this with, you might not be familiar with their name. I've covered them previously, and they're an excellent rock group if you're interested. Well, rock/metal. Dead by April. They're Swedish, I think. They're European. I love European groups. They play around, of course, their metal foundation. They've done a couple ballad songs as well. They have a bit of a similar sound, at least in some of their work. If you like Icon for Hire's rock basis, they got a couple tracks that may fit into that, even if they have much more of an electronic basis. And electronic music, I'm not a big EDM person from at least some of the more aggressive tracks I've heard in that type of style. It just seems overly chaotic to me without the balance of a good melody or a more familiar foundation to the track's construction. But I make exceptions, for example, Dead by April weaves electronic music with metal. Starset, same thing. Starset's a favorite of mine, especially on this channel. I cover Starset quite a bit as well. American rock group, if you're not familiar. Excellently talented. I would highly recommend them if you've never given them a listen. They also have a couple tracks that fit with an electronic side. Again, they mix up their styles quite a bit too. They got songs that are more pop flavored, some rock, metal, a lot with a symphonic background, especially after the last album. I love orchestral music. Or even just those elements along, or just bringing strings into a rock track is always a favorite of mine. But the electronic side of music sometimes isn't always a favorite of mine, with some exceptions. Icon for Hire would be, and this one has a lot of electronic elements woven in. Again, it's not necessarily the basis of a track, that's the rock foundation. The electronic stuff is an extra layer, but I think it's woven very well with the piece. So the music is really strong here, and again, it has that bass line that The Reckoning seems to be setting with their rock roots. And I think at this point I've named, 4 albums overall, but 2 that were primarily based on rock as well. I would say the last 2 albums mixed it up a bit in terms of the overall genre feel. You Can't Kill Us was much more, I would say, hip-hop founded. Amorphous had a lot of rock tracks, but even that still had a bit of a mixture of styles. But I would say Scripted and Icon for Hire, their self-titled album back in the early days where they were associated with Tooth and Nail, those were much more streamlined rock for the entirety of the album, with, again, some tracks mixed in, but most of the tracks had the consistency of a rock flavor. This, to me, in terms of the 3 tracks you've heard thus far, fit in the same vein that I feel those albums do. And they're good. All 3 tracks I've liked thus far. I still think out of the entirety of the album, Dismantled thus far is the strongest. I will say with this one, you've always had, it's a very relevant message. Like I said, Icon for Hire really, I think, is such a great outlet in regards to speaking to people. This is something that has been present with pretty much, I would say, every one of their tracks, at least for me. And there are tracks that speak to me better than others do, just based on the issues they're focusing on. But this one I think is a little more generalized. It's broader in appeal. We've all dealt with life's breakdowns and the chaotic nature of what life can be and living in an imperfect world. But I like the way it's written. Like the pressure's building now, that beat in my brain. It's keeping me sane. It reminds me, and the track sounds very different in regard to its genre, but Amorphous had a track on here. They've dealt with internalized how do I want to say this? Grieving at just the state of how we feel in certain moments, in the way that we think, the way we feel our brains are functioning on a psychological and emotional level. They've had tracks, I think, that have spoken to this pretty directly. I would say Hollow was really... Well, Hollow was also accompanied very well by a video that characterized the song as a therapy session. And I thought it was just such a good visual. But that video was a good accompaniment in regards to materializing this message about, someone coming to... an understanding with where their mind was at and just how they're feeling overall generally with their life and their mental health. Panic Attacks, for some reason, that was a track off of Amorphous, the 5th one. That one, which is really good in my opinion, I keep forgetting to mention that, but I was going to mention, at least on the first video, I was recognizing standout tracks for Amorphous, but Panic Attacks was just excellent in my opinion. I just forgot about it. in that moment. But for some reason, I read the lyrics here, and the way that Panic Attack spoke to issues of like anxiety or just the stress in a moment of how someone's feeling with their mental health, right? In just being stabilized in life until you get to that moment where you break down. In that case, I think they said you're snapping with that song in the lyrics. It just reminded me for some reason this song's a bit adjacent in its message, but I think it's very well articulated. Again, I think it's a good interlude to the rest of the album, right? Beyond just the interlude track, that's again a bit shorter in duration. But this is a song that's really leading into the ever subsequent 12 tracks on the album, minus the interludes. So 10, 9. I think it's a good entranceway. I do, not just based again on just the music, but the message overall. I think it certainly fits with the familiarity of what you come to expect if you are an Icon for Hire listener, like I've been pretty religiously. I love this group. It's a good fit. I think it's a very strong track. Really solid. Again, maybe my favorite is Dismantled. That one is just so good. But Breakdown's a good second. I like it. It's a solid delivery on their part. What are your guys' thoughts with Breakdown? And for those of you who perhaps this is a first listen with Icon for Hire, I hope that you appreciated this song just as much as I did. Or perhaps you maybe got a different opinion on it. Maybe you saw something deeper with the song. Maybe you saw a way that it personally resonates to you that I didn't happen upon in regard to the message of the piece. Or just maybe you're looking at the music and there's something that really spoke to you on an interest level. I would love to hear your feedback down below and what you feel about this song. And maybe, again, if you happen to be from the perspective of this being a first listen for you to Icon for Hire, I would love to hear what you think of the band. Again, there have been favorites of mine on my playlist for a very long time. And music groups like Icon for Hire are artists I love talking about. And I love shining a spotlight on perhaps for audiences who might not necessarily be the most familiarized with them. Or maybe you are. And you kind of want to resonate with someone else out there being like, I'm another listener of the Icon Army. It's kind of what we call ourselves informally. But, whatever your perspective on the track is or whatever angle you're coming from, I'd love to hear what you think about it down below. And if you're interested, of course, if there are more singles released, in anticipation for The Reckoning, which is going to have a great debut, by the way. September 9th is like a solid debut for many artists I listen to. It's going to be like a dual release night. I should throw a party or something, but Demon Hunter is also releasing their new album, and I've loved Demon Hunter for many years. They're a Christian metal group, if you're not familiar, really legendary within that genre. They've been around for 20 years now, but they're releasing their new album, Exile, the same day. So it's a dual release party. I've got Icon for Hire over here, and I got Demon Hunter over there. Either way, September 9th, I'm looking forward to it. And if you're interested, of course, I will definitely continue to cover Icon for Hire if I'm given the opportunity on this channel in the future. But if you want to explore, with me, maybe some of their past work, if you're not necessarily the most familiarized, I would say, of course, go listen to their previous albums. But I'm going to be starting a channel, as I've been teasing my music-related coverage, in the next year. I'm hoping for January 1st. That's when the channel, if all goes according to the way I've formatted it, is going to launch. I'm going to be starting a new music-related channel called Symphonies and Small Talk. And these two channels are going to be integrated. This one, Ale's Reactions, is going to be more reaction and first listen based in terms of new music versus Symphonies and Small Talk, which is going to allow me to expand my reach in regard to music coverage to music that has been as I stated, music for me has just been such a vital part of my life. And there are many tracks I can think of from many different artists out there, whether they're well-known or not, and whether it's just maybe looking at it from a music perspective of these are super talented musicians, or looking at the messages of the pieces and seeing the relevancy and the potency of the messages and the issues that a group wants to address. Symphonies and Small Talk is going to allow me to talk about artists that I really want to feature on this channel that I've listened to over many years, whether they be my childhood or maybe even more recent releases. Icon for Hire, I can tell you, will be making a number of appearances on that channel because there's just so many tracks I think are excellent in terms of listening to them and analyzing their message and just talking about. Again, I want to give special attention to artists and songs and just art generally that I feel are extensions of a positive and healthy and edifying culture. Icon for Hire is one such group that will be recognized pretty routinely on the channel. I mean, I'm going to try to shuffle around of many other groups I want to feature, but I can tell you they're going to be a staple, knowing some of the tracks that they've released thus far going in. There are some specific works I want to recognize. So if you're interested in maybe listening to some of the older tracks of me, keep your schedules logged for the first of the year. Hopefully, again, it all goes according to plan, but we'll see. But that will be when Sympathies of Small Talk, I'm hoping, will debut. But as far as I can say on Breakdown right now, again, solid track. I've loved The Reckoning thus far. Love Icon for Hire. Real staple. I'm sure a track just like Dismantled and Ready for Combat will grow in appreciation of me even over time the more listens I give it. But it's still, while I do think Dismantled is my favorite thus far, Breakdown is strong. From a musical level and from a message perspective, it's very familiar to where Icon for Hire has gone in their past works. It really is, I think, a good addition to the album and a good interlude for, where the album will go at this point from here, now that we've heard the first 3 tracks besides the interlude. I think it's a solid addition. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.